Welcome to the Mind Sensei podcast. I'm your host, Peter Taz, and I'll be taking you on a journey to the world of martial arts and introduce listeners to some of the most inspiring and knowledgeable practitioners from around the world. Whether you're a seasoned martial artist or a curious beginner, or just enjoy hearing a great story, the Mind Sensei podcast Down Under has something for everyone. So tune in, sit back, and let us take you on a journey through the world in martial arts. So, do you have any funny moments apart from that?
Yeah, goodness, it's hard to find this.
Or what about
Stuff.
famous actors that you've met?
I've done a lot of different shows, so I don't know if you remember Three's Company. Larry from Three's Company, he played my father on my episode, the guest star episode that I did on Punky Brewster, which to me, because I loved Three's Company so much, was a really big deal. I've worked with Suzanne Summers on one of her shows, and he played in that movie Summer School. He was in NCIS, the original NCIS. Mark, he played my father in a award-winning movie called After the Promise. That was based on a true story in the 1940s. That was a mini series back in the, I think, early 90s, late 80s. Gary Sinise I work with on CSI. Um, Arnold Schwarzenegger guest starred on my Nickelodeon show. We were branded as the healthiest show for kids on television back in like 1992 or something. So I think George Bush was president. And so they flew us out to Washington, D.C., and we did our show at the White House. And Arnold Schwarzenegger at the time was the head of the health, our country's like health department or whatever, or healthy living or whatever. So he guest starred on the show alongside a bunch of like Saturday Night Live guys and stuff. Um, I did the last movie I did was called Fortress. It was a World War II film that I starred in. It was on Netflix, I think, still. But that was with Bug Hall, who played Alfalfa in the Little Rascals movies. A couple other young actors were in that with me. Um,
The trailer on that looks a little bit CGI with all the plane stuff.
Yep, super CGI. That was the downfall. We lost all of that movie had such a great script, and they had to cut the script down. They filled up all the CGI you see in that film was actually owned by the producers because they were the guys who created it for the History Channel. So they used that technology for their movie, which is part of the game because they saved a lot of money. What unfortunately happened was they lost last minute while I think we'd already started production. One of their investors pulled out. So they lost the money to clean up the CGI, and the movie just kind of it was just not it was not that great. A lot of fun filming it. One of my favorite experiences as an actor, especially as an adult actor. The character was great. The history of the character was.
So you started with the Shermanator in that one. I do. I've just got it up on the other screen here. I'm looking at it. It's got the Shermanator app here. One of the actors here.
Probably one of the most famous actors I worked.
Is it? Okay. So did you do American Pie before that or after that?
He did before that.
So did you start hanging shit on him and say, "Hey, Shermanator"?
I'm sure there was jokes. We did that crew and I was the captain of the ship, and we would all film up here in actually just in North Hollywood here. We had a studio. We filmed in the studio that one of the original studios they filmed the original Star Wars in. And we'd go and hit bars afterwards, and we drank a lot of Jameson because we were all supposed to be Irish, so we were in character. So I'm sure shit came out. But yeah, no, my experiences back then, man, I cherish those years. I'm so happy for that experience in my life. Would not get back into it likely. I mean, unless it just fell into my lap. I'm over it. I enjoyed my time. It's a different business now. That's one of the reasons why I started the company here, my dojo, is because it the money was not as good as what it was in the 80s and 90s because of the platforms that came out, and you did your residual checks got cut in half, and it's just a much harder industry to be in and make a living in as an adult. As a kid, you don't care. It's just extra.
Yeah, yeah,
I
correct.
loved to buy my own car, and they didn't have to worry about buying books in college and all that money. So
All right, so let's talk a little bit about hobbies outside of the martial arts that you have. Or
Yeah, I play the piano, a little bit of guitar, but I'm the guy that plays the same beginning of Metallica over and over again. Um, or Sweet Home Alabama.
just a good bits.
Just the good bits. But piano, I the piano, I studied for quite a chunk of my life, so I can sit down and play that. Um, I mean, biggest hobby right now for me is my daughter. My wife and I had her in 2020, and she'll be 5 years old December 20th. So she's a pretty much everything in my life right now. But as far as my personal stuff goes, I love camping, and I grew up surfing and skateboarding and snowboarding. I still enjoy all that stuff. I can't skate as much as I used to because my body hurts. Freaking tear my Achilles heel pumping. Um, but I love snowboarding. I love going to the mountains and just outdoors. We do a lot of stuff outdoors. Um, that's why I love having that Kempo camp. I've had it annually for a while up in the mountains. We get cabins and we get into international guests.
What time of year is that?
It's normally late spring, and then we've also done it a couple times.
Which is what for the normal people?
April.
April.
Yeah, we that was where we were, and then the last year, a couple of years maybe, we had it in I want to say September, maybe October. Um, Next year, my student we skipped the last 2 years, so my students are really wanting me to get it together again. It's a great way to bond. Events, it's great for retention because students are allowed to really bond in these.
I used to do a camp every year, but I just found it was just too much to handle. So we made it every 2 years.
Yeah, and the kind of camp that I'm throwing is a lot because it's like, especially for those guests, instructors who everybody volunteers to come and teach. And obviously, I mean, I always try to keep the costs so low that I break even in regards to how much money I put out for, the facility and food and all that stuff. So if I have anything left over, I'll try to give some back. But all the people who've been guests over the years, they get, free lodging, free meals all weekend. But it's not like they're making money on it. The hardest part of what I do in the mountains for that was, um, the facilities are very rugged, if you will, kind of like glamping in a way. I mean, there's cabins, there's heat, there's hot water, which is great, showers, but it's not like a five-star hotel. It's very low grade motel-y. It's very cool and fun and comfortable in the atmosphere of training on the outdoors and the mountains under the sky. Just amazing. Everybody has huge positive feedback, but like you said, it takes a lot of
Takes a lot of yeah, a lot of organisation.
especially with my kid now. It's like, budgeting and all that.
Who does all the
We
cooking then for camp?
The first year we actually all did it ourselves. That was the real rugged year because that was in a camp that had limited heat and was like a Boy Scout camp. The years after, I found a place which came with chefs, so they would make all the meals for us, which was really nice. Wake up for breakfast, lunch, dinner. We brought snack. We brought our own alcohol, wine and beer for the nighttime, fires and game night and all that stuff. So, but they've been really successful. Everybody who's joined us have had a blast of a time, and I'll bring it back. I'll bring it back. But I enjoy things like that. I used to love when the old company we'd do Saturday beach training, and everybody wake up and we're so close to the ocean here. We go down and we train our katas in the sand, and then we go up to our ankles in the ocean and our waists in the ocean, and you do your techniques in the water and all that. And it's kind of a good way of bonding. But that's it, man. I mean, as far as my outside hobbies go, I love to travel. I love that's why I love Kempo so much is it's opened so many doors to, um, go and share my love for the art alongside others and learn from others. Um, and I like art. I like to draw and paint. My wife's an amazing artist. Um, and our daughter loves to do that stuff, so that's nice. I love adventure, man. I love things like back when I was younger, I loved jumping off things that I probably shouldn't, bungee cord and jumping, all that jazz. Adrenaline. I'm an adrenaline junkie in a way, to a certain degree. I love scuba diving. Big fan of scuba diving. My wife and I got certified years ago together, and we dove all over the world and off the coast of California here quite a bit. So yeah, man.
Okay. So with the have you studied any other arts, and what are your thoughts on the cross training?
When I was young, but before I moved to California, I did some taekwondo. Um, wasn't for me. I mean, it's fine breaking boards and stuff, but that wasn't my style. Um, I've explored Krav Maga. I've explored Sistema a little bit, not as much as what I'd like to. I don't know if you've ever met Martin Wheeler, but he was not only a
Yeah, he was a Kempoist.
yeah, he was
Yeah.
a badass Kempoist. Just
It was actually Diane Wheeler. He's one of Diane Wheeler's black belts. No relation.
man.
No
Yeah.
relation. Yeah, she's a cool cat.
Oh no. Yeah, Diane is cool. Every time she comes out, we always have a night out together. We spend a lot of time on the mats together. I really love her. She's a wonderful person.
She gets a bit angry with me at times because she hadn't spoken to
You
Martin
guys,
for a while. Yeah, yeah.
what?
She, we went. She came to the camp this year, and we're at Mr. Lolliot's house. After camp, the international people come along. We have a bit of a drink, and we're just talking. And I said, "Look, I just was trying to catch up with Martin." She goes, "Oh yeah, Martin was my black belt." I said, "Yeah, I know that." And then she's like, "Oh, I haven't spoken to him in years." And I'm like, called my phone up, and I said, "Oh, I'll call him." She goes, "No, no, he'll be too busy." And no, his light's green. I bloody dialed him up, and anyway, he answered. He goes, "Pete," I go, "Marty, what's going on?" And I just went, here you go. And she's like,
Oh, that would piss her off.
yeah.
I could see that.
But she got to speak to him again. They connected after many moves, right? So
That's great.
Mr. Lillian always says that I'm a guy that's going to take you outside of your comfort zone, make you do things you don't want to do.
And you know what? I tell you, not only is his character, just his whole sense of self is like his energy is so awesome. I just enjoyed my time with him. It's been a while since I've seen him, but we worked together at Abbott's event. It's where I met him. He was a guest there, and I've had the honor of and true pleasure of training a little bit with him and Andy Southerton has been a big influence on me. I'm glad that we're still talking because there's so many names. I mean, the Harms, Ben Harms, and Steve Harms out in um, Shard, England. They're amazing Kempoists and Vigoroo and we get along really well. Joe Pisaglia, all these guys, but Southerton, I was out in England, was it last year, 2024, and I was a guest over at the Harms Dojo, and Andy's big friend of theirs, a close friend of theirs as well, and he does that sistema as well. He blends it in with his American Kempo, and he is super effective. He's a phenomenal Kempoist, period. But I love his sistema. I think I don't know if he works with Martin directly or not, but I know they get along. But yeah, other arts that I enjoy exploring, pretty much any combative art. Um, I watch a lot of different videos and study different arts and such online. Always trying to kind of cherry pick things that I see, and then I'll get out and explore the motion or the concept on the mats and make it my own, Kempoize it, whatever. Um, I have respect for everything. I love Wing Chun. I think the one thing that misses from that art is power. A lot of times you get these practitioners that just speed, speed, speed. And I've been in too many altercations where you can if you hit like that, you can hit the guy 6 to 8 times and he takes you one swat at you and you're done. You got to have backup mass. And so I love the it's something that skills in. I love the I love the flow. I love the drills, was it Hooba drills? Um, but I want the torque. When I do a drill, a Wing Chun drill with my students, I'm like, slow it down, don't tap. You're just pissing people off with those little bites. You need to blast and you can make this work, but you have to go a little deeper.
Yeah, I think we discussed that with Angelo when I went to visit him. That we have what's called the fulcrum sets,
Hmm.
which are Kempo's version of Hoover drills.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. So we had the same sort of thing with Angelo. We will talk about things like, oh, we call that this in my country. We call that this.
Yeah. Yeah, Angelo and AJ, that's one I love. AJ was working here for a long time, and of course, his father was here a lot, and we spent a lot of time on the mats together. I mean, he tweaked some of my forms for me. When I went to the internationals for the first time, he really worked my long form 4 for me, and I say I won silver that year, and I remember thanking him up and down because he took that form. He's such an amazing, um, forms practitioner. But he does a lot of things like from the Filipino arts he pulls from, and he's still Kempo. He still makes it Kempo, but that's the stuff I enjoy. I'm to this day, I'm constantly looking for other avenues and other pieces of little gold. Anthony will always says, just a little nugget of gold that you can find out there.
So you've been teaching since 2006 and founded your Shaolin American Self Defense Academy in 2011. Tell us about that, and tell us about the name too. Like your so obviously your Shaolin came from the original art that you started.
Yeah, I think being honest, the first part of that, part of the story there with the Shaolin name involved was because I was going into this company thinking in this dojo thinking that I was going to blend Shaolin and American syllabuses together, creating my own version of Kempo. And in fact, my original certificate, the only student I have to this day who truly earned a first degree, a first dan in Shaolin Kempo and a first dan in American Kempo was Jared Potos, my guy who manages my school. His first degree certificate says certified in the art of Shaolin American Kempo. His test was 8 hours long. It was in front of about 15 American Kempo masters. We had the whole line of them. They hated me because it was the longest day in the world. But it's because he went through both syllabuses. He did every single form in Shaolin Kempo, all the way up to long form 4 and American Kempo. His face was I'll never forget, I thought I killed him. He's not a chunky guy, he's super skinny tall, but that poor cat, man, we nearly hazed him. I mean, hazing would be a strong word. We pushed him to his limits. But anyway, the reason why I originally, I think, incorporated it into the name was because that was my idea. Then it basically transitioned over to I kept it because I feel like from a personal perspective, it's giving respect to my past. It's where I got my first black belt. It's where I got my foundation of martial arts. Uh, and from a business perspective, honestly, the name sometimes gets these random calls of, "Do you teach Shaolin Kung Fu?" No, but thank you for asking. I teach this. Come on in for a free trial. So it's
But I don't think most people know. Like you should just say yes because they don't know what they're asking for.
And then, well, I always say, yeah, I do teach Kung Fu. It's just called Kempo, and it's a blend of Kung Fu, karate, and jujitsu, Japanese jujitsu, not Brazilian jujitsu. And I'm always really good at that sell because once they do try it out and they're like, I wanted traditional Kung Fu, but I love this. See? Great, win. I learned some tricks from the old company in regards to, things like having Shaolin in the name or not putting Kempo in my school name because it doesn't close doors. A lot of people are naive out there and they see Kempo. What is Kempo? A lot of a lot of just normal people who've never done martial arts, they don't know what that is. So I use this general term of self-defense academy. And then when I have the sit down with them, I explain the syllabus and where it all comes from, and they learn that as they go. But for a business, it's really healthy for me to get phone calls that ask, "Oh, you teach Shaolin Kung Fu? I watch your videos. It's not Shaolin Kung Fu. No, it's not Shaolin Kung Fu." And then I get the chance to explain to them. The reason why that's in my name, my original black belt came from Shaolin Kempo, which was a little more of a Chinese influence than the American Kempo I teach now. It's a little more classical, classically driven, but we don't teach that syllabus anymore. It's just it opens a door. It's been really good for business. In fact, back in the day, I used to have kung fu on my windows when I first opened. I had kung fu, karate, jujitsu, and something else, and just the jujitsu alone, I got phone calls. Hey, you teach jujitsu? Not BJJ, but jujitsu. Oh, I was looking for BJJ. Well, come and try us out. They sign up. They were looking for BJJ. But because I wasn't specific and it just said jujitsu on my window on the boulevard, it baited them in to call me and they opened the door, you know. So as far as the um, logo and stuff goes, originally my original shield, I had one around on one of my, oh, I still wear a couple of them, my old gis, but the original was a shield. So it was just in the form of a traditional shield with the same inside. Um, I'm not going to get into the story, but there was a gentleman, American Kempoist, who I crossed paths with at one point of my life here. And he sat me down one day and story aside, basically, he got into my head and he said, you're teaching American Kempo, and I don't understand why you wouldn't give respect to the crest. What if or some form of the crest, it's kind of confusing if you're teaching at Parker Kempo and you don't have some, you know, visual to that. And I go, it got me. Yeah, I was naive. I was very, very young in the business. And I'm like, okay, God, I got to do that. So I started looking at different crest shapes and the original Parker and all this stuff. And then I liked the sharpness of this one. And I think I got this shape maybe from, I know I got the idea of um, the triangles up on top, the lightning triangles up on top from a discussion I had had with Dennis Knatzer about the moving forward, backward, shape of the triangle and stuff. So he had a story behind that. And I was like, I like that. And I actually asked him, I said, do you mind if I use a piece of your logo within mine? Cause I like that look and I like the story behind. Yeah. Yeah. No problem. And then the shape was just, I like the sharpness of this particular crest. So that's where I chose that. And then the triangle represents mind, body, and spirit. Um, Classical, practical, tactical, balanced training. The kanji obviously says Kempo, and then the circle represents the circle. The lines of the triangle represent the lines, the line in the circle. Dragon and tiger are the two main Shaolin animals we use in American Kempo. The yin yang, one's power, smothering, linear motion. The other's circular, driven, speed, patience. One's the bronze, one's the defensive, one's the offensive. One can be used as both. So, yeah, that's it. And then I gave respect to Ed Parker by using his original Kempo letter, which that was my get back to, even though I never met the man, he is the reason why we teach what we teach. So gave that there. And that was it. That's the story of my patch. The two tiger and dragons were found by one of my students, and I just liked the look. So he put those together.
So you're open to people coming down to train with you and reach out and join?
Oh yeah, always. I'm one thing I love is welcoming people from other countries, other states, other factions. Everybody's welcome. That's something that this school's all about. And you notice online, I'm constantly every so many months I'll have somebody come through. And it doesn't even matter if they're American Kempo, if they're good and I enjoy what they're teaching and I feel like it's going to be something that can expand my students' minds. I'm welcoming. I mean, as long as there's no ego involved, and I'm not going to judge you unless I, unless you're not teaching anything of real value. But I've never had that. People come in and they share. I love having all the different lineages and grandmasters and masters on the mats, and so anybody and everybody are welcome. And of course, students are always welcome. And you're traveling and you're a Kempoist or even from another art, and you want to come in and be a guest here, come on in. We have a mat fee. A lot of times I'll let you take your first round for free, especially if you've traveled from afar and you just happen to have a uniform and you want to pop in. And I've had people call me and say, "Hey, I looked you up online. I'm traveling on business. I'm staying about 10 minutes away. I'm a Shotokan practitioner, but I really like the vibe of your school. I'm like, can I come in and train? Sure, come on in. So they come in and take the class.
And let's see, how has martial arts impacted your physical and mental well-being?
Well, I think physically, I will give it this. It physically, it keeps you it keeps you young, even though it keeps you sore. And I've had doctors. I have horrible spinal problems, not just from the martial arts, from accidents I've had in earlier in my life, and knees both scoped and operations. Joints. Elbow joints blow out, shoulders blow out. You're a practitioner, you feel it. But I had a doctor, my knee doctor, orthopedic, said to me, I'd think your knees would be 10 times worse if you were not doing what you do on a daily basis, because 'cause you're keeping those muscles that support the joints strong. Keeps your weight down if you're willing to train. It's active, I hate sitting and doing computer work. It's just never been, I think because of my background as an actor, it's like I was always on my feet. I was always actively traveling and moving around. I was never an office person. And when I did try that out in my years of trying new jobs, I hated it. So quite honestly, I love being active and moving around and keeping myself physically fit. But I think it adds youth. I tell some of my older students who come in at 60-something years old, "Do you think I'm too old to start?" No, I think it's a great age to start at any age. We have 80-something-year-old clients here, private clients. They don't do group class, but we have one-on-ones with them a couple times a week. We have this one fellow, he's 80 years old, one of my most interesting students that I've ever had here, in all the years I've been teaching. John, he's an he's a Vietnam vet. He's a high school swimming coach. He's a volunteer for the Glendale PD. He's just a badass. You can see it in his eyes. I mean, I've recently been gifted with his memoirs of the Vietnam era, and it's such an amazing story. But anyway, you look at guys like that age, and you never think he's 80 years old. Like he always says, I'm a little slower. So if I'm staring at you and you're asking me a question, don't think that I'm not listening, but I'm processing in my brain. But the man physically, he does the Iron Man. He's one of the oldest guys who
Okay.
participated.
Oh, they're beasts.
Yeah, phenomenal dude. But I look at it, he agrees with me. Martial arts training provides a bit of a fountain of youth if used correctly and respectfully. And so yeah, it's awesome. Psychologically, it's where you work things out. I tell my students, you bow in the pagoda, bow into the mats, you drop your life luggage off. That stays in the lobby. You come in, and that's why we wear uniforms. I know some places these days, some of the more combat arts, they just do shorts and a t-shirt, what have you. I love that. But find value to us traditionally putting on a traditional, kimono style gi, tie the belt. You can wear shoes if they're mat shoes, but go barefoot and leave that normal human behind. And I tell people who become friends here, maybe a green belt's now become really close friends with an orange belt. Off the mats, you guys are chums. You guys can go off, drink beers together, have fun, joke about life and whatnot. But once you go onto the mats, the green belt is your senior, and you have a hierarchy there. It's just like when I say to people, "You see me at the grocery, it's Donnie." On the mats in the dojo, say sensei, please, just out of respect. I never correct anybody, but it's just something I think people just kind of fall on line with. And
Yeah.
so I think psychologically, it's a great place to just drop off your baggage and work it out. I always start classes out. How's everybody feeling today? Hopefully happy. And if not, work it out on the mats, and hopefully you leave with a smile. And I think that's just a great part of working through fears. As adults, we leave school. College is usually the last place we're really tested other than interviewing for jobs. And so having adults, I always tell adults that come up, especially the ones who get really nervous when they test, I feel it and I respect it. And I tell them even in front of everyone in the test, I say, I hear your breathing, you're off, your nerves are just about to overwhelm you. And I want you to know how much I respect you because you're 50, 60 something years old and you're putting yourself up here in front of your peers, people younger and older than you, and you're saying you're your same age. And you're taking a chance in life that a lot of people will just say, no, I'm not going to challenge myself anymore. I'm done with that. I'm done with learning. I'm done with mastering something new. So I think there's a lot of psychological benefits. And then you get into the kids, don't even get me started. As a teacher yourself, I mean, it's not rocket science. I think it should be called, I don't like parents to call this a hobby. And when they do in like an email, well, little Johnny has found another hobby or he's found another sport. I will go back to them and say, I think you're making a big mistake. This isn't a hobby and it's not a sport. This is a lifestyle. This is an addendum to education because your kid has made better grades now that they've been a part of this program for the last few years. They respect adults more. They're able to socialize in a more harmonious way with others. This is something that has absolutely taken so much more than the punches and the kicks and the way to defend themselves. They're defending themselves and becoming resilient for life, and I think it's huge, and that goes for adults as well. So,
Okay, so what advice would you have for someone wanting to start out in the martial arts?
do it. And as far as finding the style, try different styles, try different arts. And I always tell people who ask me, for a referral, sensei, I'm unfortunately having to move to Oregon or I'm moving to Texas or wherever, and I need a referral. And they say, I've looked up in the town that we're moving, there's no Kempo. And the first thing I say is, it doesn't matter. Find the right sensei. The team is if you have a good teacher in any art style form, you can get the benefits of the martial arts, but it's about that bond. And it should really start there, I think, before you even choose. I mean, 'cause like you and I've discussed
Yeah,
prior,
correct.
you don't,
Sometimes referrals don't go well,
exactly,
you know? Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So, yeah.
And then if you had to impart some wisdom or have an inspirational quote for some of our listeners, what would that be?
Um, just never give up, I think, is a simple one. Never give up and remember that, what did Mr. White always say? I love this one. I have it above my office. Like, I've never met an adult who was, uh,
Allowed to quit as a child.
yeah,
He was happy
was
they
happy
were
that they were able to quit as a child.
correct.
I think that's an important one as well. Yeah.
Okay. And then are there any books you can recommend for our listeners?
Zen in the martial arts. Uh, I think that's one of the best, very quick reads, but phenomenal. Joe Hyams, he was a Parker, I believe, student. Wrote that and talks a lot about Bruce Lee. He was back in the days where Bruce Lee was around. And it's a lot about that book that I think stands out is it's especially for those of us who are getting older and our bodies might not be able to move the way, or they might not recover like they used to, or what have you. It talks a lot about how we adjust and adapt um, to whatever state we're in. I can tell you right now that I definitely move different, and I can't say better or worse, but different than what I did in my 20s versus my 30s versus my 40s versus now my 50s. And we have to adapt to our injuries, around our injuries, work around them and work with them. So that book really touches upon a lot of that. And of course, Infinite Insights as a Kempoist. If you're not reading that, I think you should definitely pick copies up and go through that. Way of a Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. Uh, Great for any age read, but for youth, especially coming of age, youth martial artists, I think that's a great one. Um, there's also a movie attached to that book, but read the book. The book, and then if you liked that book, look up the next book. It's Way of a Peaceful Warrior and Journey of a Peaceful Warrior. I think there's a book series, like 3 or 4, but they're just phenomenal books about just life and about basically a kind of a sensei or mentor, student relationship, and it goes pretty deep. Good read.
Okay. So for people interested in training with you guys, now's the time for your shameless plug. Location, website, social media, email.
We are Shaolin American Self-Defense Academy on Instagram and on Facebook. You can Google us, we'll pop up. Um, and you can always shoot me an email, Donnie at ShaolinAmericanSDA.com, or Sensei at ShaolinAmericanSDA.com. They both come through. Um, Come in and try us out if you're ever in the area and you want to just be a guest, or if you're moving to the area, we do free trial, free private lesson. One thing different about my program than other dojos is we do a 4 private lesson program. So it's 28-day billing cycle that we use, but every 4 weeks you get 1/2 hour private lesson a week, and then you get unlimited group class access. So for the children's programs, we have the Tiny Tigers 4 to 7, 8 to 10, and 11 to 14. They have 16 each 1-hour group classes a month, or every 4-week period, 16. And then my adults have 24 1-hour group classes every 4 weeks. So they run Monday through Saturday. In fact, there's a couple of days where Wednesday nights we add an extra hour after class for technique line, and then Saturdays we have an advanced class, green belts, brown belts, and black belts work an extra hour. So plenty of training. Really does help. Those private lessons are kind of what is our niche. It allows us to bond with our students and fine tune you as an individual, tailor fit it to you. So that's it.
Awesome. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our list of questions. So thank you, Mr. Donnie Jeffcoat from Shaolin American Self-Defense Academy, joining us all the way from North Hollywood, Los Angeles, USA. Thanks for being on. Great to meet you. Great to chat to you. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you, Ms. Taz.
I'm your host, Peter Taz, and you've tuned in to the Mind Sensei podcast from Down Under. We want to take a moment to thank all our listeners for tuning in to the Mind Sensei podcast. We appreciate your support and hope our show has been both informative and entertaining for you. If you haven't already done so, we would like to invite you to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Finally, we'd like to thank our guests for sharing their knowledge and experience with us. Without their generosity, this podcast would not be possible. Thank you again for listening to the Mind Sensei podcast Down Under. We hope that you continue to join us on this journey through the world of martial arts.